Live from Capitol Hill, this is BBC News. The FBI is investigating a second attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Gunshots were fired on a Florida golf course where Donald Trump was playing.
The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. He was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual.
The suspect then fled. He was then arrested after authorities surrounded his vehicle on a highway nearby. The US media has now named the suspect. He is Ryan Wesley Roth. He is 58 years old from the state of Hawaii. Donald Trump has told us all he is safe. His motorcade could be seen leaving West Palm Beach in the last few hours. We've also heard from President Biden, who says he has directed his team to ensure the Secret Service has the resources to ensure Mr. Trump's safety. Hello everyone, welcome to the programme. I'm Lucy Hockings in Washington DC. Let's bring you right up to date with what is happening here with this attempted assassination of Donald Trump. The FBI saying they are investigating what they are calling an attempted assassination attempt. Shots were fired in his vicinity on his Palm Beach golf course in Florida. He was playing there at the time, Sunday afternoon, having his regular game of golf. Now, it's understood that Secret Service agents opened fire on the suspect, who then left the scene, fled the scene by car. We've had a statement from Donald Trump's campaign. Let's bring you what he said. He said there were gunshots in my vicinity, but before rumours start spiralling out of control, I wanted you to hear this first. I am safe and well. And I have to say, in the past hour or so, we've had further statements from Donald Trump. A new campaign fundraising email has quoted the former president saying he's never going to slow down, he's never going to give up. And he said that his resolve is only stronger after what he called another attempt on my life. We do have an image to show you. It is an image of the moment when security services surrounded the suspect. It's been released. We can show it to you here now. Here he is, detained in Martin County by the sheriff's office. This is the northbound area of Interstate 95, following an alert which told officers to be on the lookout for a vehicle seen leaving the golf course in Palm Beach County. US media have named him. We have a name. He is Ryan Routh, a 58-year-old from Hawaii. More details as well emerging about the suspect, including reports that he was deeply involved in efforts to get foreign fighters into Ukraine to battle against the Russian army. So some of those details are still coming in. We'll keep you up to date on that too. Our BBC Verified team working on all of this so that we can bring you the very latest on the suspect. But let's take you back to the quite detailed press conference we had from all of the security forces who are involved now, the FBI, the Secret Service, and also the local sheriff. Here he is explaining just what unfolded.
1:30 this afternoon, call came out, shots fired. That was called in by the Secret Service. Because we're in constant contact with them all the time, we were notified of that, and we had units here that immediately sealed off the area. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag, which was great. So we had that information. Our real-time crime center put it out to the license plate readers. And we were able to get a hit on that vehicle on I-95 as it was headed into Martin County. We got a hold of Martin County Sheriff's Office, alerted them, and they spotted the vehicle and pulled it over and detained the guy. After that, we took the the witness that witnessed the incident, flew him up there, and he identified as the person that he saw running out of the bushes and jumped into the car. Now, in the bushes where this guy was is an AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of. So those are being processed right now. The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off. So that's what we know about the investigation. We have somebody in custody right now that is a potential suspect. We got a little bit more work to do on it, but as we usually do, as soon as we decide that we're going to book him into the county jail and the charges that he's going to be booked into, we'll get those to you and we'll get a picture of him and we'll get you his background.
We've been getting lots of reaction from right across the political spectrum. Let's show you the tweet that we had from Vice President Kamala Harris. She's made a short statement saying she's been briefed on the incident. She's expressed relief over the safety of her opponent, and she says violence has no place in America. I can also bring you just some of President Biden's statement as well. He's just issued one and says that he is relieved that the former president is unharmed. As I've said many times, he also reiterated this: there is no place for political violence or any kind of violence in this country. And he also said he had directed his team to continue to ensure that Secret Service agents have every resource, capability and protective measure that is necessary to ensure the former president's continued safety. Well, we're going to get lots of opinions and views for you on what's happened. This is another incident that has shocked lots of people across America. Other people are saying this is a result of some of the political divisions that we see here, and maybe this kind of violence is a new reality for people in America. But we've got with us tonight Julia Manchester, a political reporter at The Hill, Joseph Moreno, who is a former U.S. federal prosecutor, and Barry Donadio, who is a former Secret Service agent. Looking forward to talking to you all. But first, let's find out what is happening at the scene and join CBS correspondent Christian Benavides, who is outside the golf club in West Palm Beach. Christian, very good to see you. Firstly, what's happening there at the moment?
Well, at this point, the road in front of Trump International Golf Course remains closed. In fact, there's a sort of perimeter around the golf course, and you have to go through a checkpoint to even get to where the media has been staged at this moment. We had that very detailed press conference. It's not always that you have all of these details sort of laid out for everyone to know at an incident like this. So what do we know? How did this happen? All of this happened about 8 hours ago. Officials say that a Secret Service agent who was ahead of the former president on the golf course, as Mr. Trump was golfing, there was a Secret Service agent that was ahead, about 2 holes ahead, according to officials. Agent that was ahead, about 2 holes ahead, according to officials. He was looking at the grounds. He spotted someone who had a rifle. He engaged with the suspect. At that point, the suspect apparently ran out from the bushes into the street. At that point, a suspect spots him, sees him jumping into a vehicle, writes down the tag number of that vehicle and a description of the vehicle, a black Nissan. He then hands over that tag number, and that license plate number, and information about the vehicle to police. That individual is then stopped on the highway, on a major highway here, Interstate 95. He was heading north, heading into another jurisdiction when he was stopped. At some point, the witness is brought over to get a look at the individual that's in custody, and he confirms that that's the individual that he saw running out from the golf course right here. But clearly just such a troubling incident, a second assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Truly incredible that that witness was able to see the license plate, hand that over to officials so that they would be able to get that man into custody.
Christian, a huge amount of praise, of course, for that witness right across the spectrum at the moment. But we have a team, a BBC Verified team, looking into the profile online of Ryan Routh. But what have you and your colleagues at CBS News managed to find out about him?
Well, look, his online profile does show a number of posts. At this point, everyone is sort of just combing through what he has been posting online. I think that from what we've been able to confirm is just sort of his background, his identity. We understand that he also has had some sort of contact with law enforcement. Unclear what that means, if he has a criminal record or if he had prior run-ins with police. All we know is that law enforcement in some way were aware of this individual. Another interesting point here is that they were able to recover that AK-47 style rifle. Along with it, there were also 2 backpacks and apparently a GoPro, so a GoPro camera to that accompanied those things that officials were able to recover from where they believe he was hiding in the bushes.
Kristen, great to get that update again from you. Thank you so much. Let's talk to the panel that we have with us this evening. As I mentioned, Julia Manchester is with us, Joseph Moreno, a former U.S. federal prosecutor, and also Barry Donadio, a former Secret Service agent. Barry, perhaps I should start with you. A lot of praise for the Secret Service this evening. Particularly, they were heavily criticized after that first assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. What are your thoughts on how they operated this evening and their actions?
Well, first and foremost, God bless the United States Secret Service. They saved the president's life today, and they did in Pennsylvania as well. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. They detected a threat, they dealt with the threat, and they saved the president's life. And they probably evacuated him, kept him safe, and not only that, they caught the bad guy. So the rest is going to be up to Congress to figure out what happened, the FBI to investigate, and there's going to be a lot to learn coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Joseph, we were hearing from Christian in Florida about some of the evidence that the Secret Service were able to collect from the scene, but it seems like they do have a goldmine now of forensic evidence to take this prosecution forward.
To be a little hesitant to kind of jump to conclusions here. I mean, evidence will trickle out, but this is in the investigative phase right now. So I would only really trust what we're hearing from official reports, not what you see on social media. But yes, I mean, based on what we know, the Secret Service did an excellent job, as well as the Florida deputy that stopped this suspect. And as far as charges, yes, there'll be remember, we have a 2-tiered system. We have federal and state charges that are possible here. So some combination of attempted murder, criminal trespass, firearms charges. It will likely be a federal crime primarily, but it doesn't sound like there's going to be difficulty here. I would think that one major issue will be to find out if he was working with anyone. Was this a conspiracy, or was he truly a lone gunman? But again, I would say wait at least a few days before we really know what happened here.
Julia, we've heard from the Trump campaign team, and also his children have quickly gone on Fox News, his boys, talking about their father surviving another assassination attempt. Just take us through the reaction that we've had from Republicans and from Trump supporters in the Trump campaign so far.
Yeah, so what we've heard from Republicans and those Trump supporters is this condemnation of an uptick in political rhetoric. They say it's coming from the left. They're, particularly blaming the left for calling Trump a threat to democracy, a dictator, but also, talking about the fact that this is a second assassination attempt on his life and how remarkable, obviously in a very negative way, this is. On the other side of this, though, you have Democrats coming out and also saying, the White House saying that, expressing Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's relief that Donald Trump is safe following this assassination attempt, and Kamala Harris saying there is no place for political violence in this country. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer talking about how he believes, or how he hopes that this suspect is prosecuted, to the utmost, as much as he possibly can under the law. So there's certainly, a lot of politics at play here, and oftentimes we hear after, any incident like this involving political violence, but particularly after that first assassination attempt against Trump just over, a month ago, or roughly 2 months ago, this call for a tone down of political rhetoric, or a toning down of that rhetoric. Those calls only lasted for a few days. And I think part of that is because we're in a polarized environment here in this country, but we are just so incredibly close to an election. So who knows, what this conversation surrounding this assassination attempt against Trump will look like in the context of the campaign trail going forward.
Barry, can we come back to you, because we're going to be mulling over this for some time as we see pictures of the evidence that has been produced by the sheriff. But I want to get your insights into the actions of that one Secret Service agent. He's ahead of Donald Trump. He's scanning the bushes, scanning the golf course, and he sees that AK-47 poking up out of a bush. How remarkable is that moment that he managed to spot that? I mean, how difficult is that to be that alert and that conscious of what's in your sightline and what's going on?
Right, that's a life-changing event for the agent as well as the former President Donald Trump. The agent doesn't have much time to deal with a rifle pointed at him. It was probably pointed either in his direction or at other officers or agents. He had to react quickly. So I imagine he didn't even have time to get on the radio. He probably drew his weapon, gave voice commands to the person with the rifle to drop the weapon. When there was non-compliance, he probably fired right away immediately, because that's exactly what I would have done. The president was probably sheltered in an armored location, armored vehicle, or a safe place, and the rest of the agents probably pursued the man with the rifle as well.
Really interesting to get that insight, Barry. Hope you can all stay with us, Julia, Barry and Joseph. We're going to have plenty more to talk about after the break, around the world and across the UK. This is BBC News. Welcome back to Washington, D.C. as we continue to bring you breaking news coverage of the second assassination attempt on the life of the former President Donald Trump in Florida at one of his golf resorts. We've been talking to a range of experts who are still with us: Julia Manchester, Barry Donadio, and also Joseph Marino, who is a former U.S. federal prosecutor and a national security analyst. Joseph, I could return to you now. How much do you think this second attempt on Donald Trump's life is going to have to change the calculation around protecting these big political figures?
Well, I mean, Lucy, I think we have to see the reality here. I mean, this is a pattern that we can't let continue. And whether it's a question of resources, or whether a question of decision making as far as what's allocated to a former president versus a current president and a candidate, I think that we obviously have to make some tough decisions. But, you know, I can't help but wonder what's like the atmosphere, I think, very much is here is like, who's in charge here? Like, where's the president? Where's the vice president? Where's the attorney general? Where's the Secretary of Homeland Security? I mean, this happened 8 hours ago, and we only received a written statement from Joe Biden like 20 minutes ago. Kamala Harris issued a tweet this afternoon. There's a very much a sense here that like no one's in charge. And so I think before we get into the tactical level of what's to be done, we need to take a step back and say, wait a minute, there doesn't seem to be anybody at control here. And with the absence of leadership, this is actually what happens. Things break down and there's no accountability.
Can I bring you in on that, Julia? Because President Biden did say in his statement that he has just released in the past half an hour or so that Donald Trump, he would make sure that all the resources were available to protect the president. But what else have we heard from senior figures in the administration?
Well, look, that's about what we're hearing at that point. Hearing Kamala Harris saying she's been briefed, that she's monitoring the administration. Joe Biden's saying essentially the same thing, that they're making these resources available. But I think, as Joseph, mentioned before, we haven't heard too much from the Biden administration on this. Part of that could be a calculation as to, they want to make sure they have, as much information as they can before they, make more of a public statement, whether that's in the form of a statement on camera, a press conference, or, statement to reporters at the White House. We'll see. We could potentially see that tomorrow, but, they are being very cautious right now. And this is also happening, I think, amid the backdrop of a political campaign, and the fact that Kamala Harris is running against Donald Trump for the presidency. So, I'm not saying that's not why they're being quiet, but it really adds layers in this dynamic that we're seeing of Trump and Republicans very much putting this blame in a way on Democrats for their heightened rhetoric. That being said, we don't know the motive of this suspect at this moment. But at the same time, the Biden administration being very cautious, apparently, in how they're approaching this.
Barry, how much of a strain do you think all of this puts on the Secret Service, already under intense pressure after the last assassination attempt? Is this going to really put them under increased pressure and strain now?
Yeah, I think it will get some more questions to be asked. There's going to be more leadership questions. There's going to be more questions of where are the resources. We all have to understand that there is a difference between the sitting president and a presidential candidate and even a former president. They get different packages and different levels of security. But I think right now, at this moment in time in history, we now have to reevaluate, should all these candidates, including the president, all get the same presidential protective package? And I think that's probably going to have to be the answer. It's just too tense right now. Where the most tense time in U.S. history that in my lifetime, as far as democracy itself, being endangered because of conspiracy theories or one side believing one thing and the other side believing the other. The government's going to have to rein us all in, be extremely transparent in everything, release every bit of information, because they shouldn't want to have the ability for people to breed conspiracy theories based on this whole thing. It is a complex problem. It is a new problem. And we're on the forefront of a new realm of presidential protection, as I see it.
Joseph, Barry there was just raising the issue of conspiracy theories and the impact that they have and the extra level of vigilance that's required because of conspiracy theories. How concerning do you think it is that one of the bits of evidence that the FBI now have is this GoPro that was in the backpack, that the suspect clearly in some way intended to film what was happening and then perhaps use it for his own propaganda purposes?
Well, this goes back to what I said earlier about being careful what we believe in the early hours after something like this. I have no doubt it will be investigated thoroughly, and I think it'll take some time, but we will get the information out. But I'll go back to a point that Julia made earlier, and she worded it very carefully. But I'm going to say, look, I know the politically correct thing is to say that things are toxic and both sides need to calm down the rhetoric. But the fact of the matter is, look, Donald Trump's behavior can be erratic. He can say ridiculous things. But for 8 years, he's been called a Russian plant, Adolf Hitler, a fascist. He's going to destroy democracy. So when you say that over and over and over again, you're going to generate people that are going to do things like this. So sure, we'll figure out what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, and we'll figure out hopefully what this individual's motivations were. But really, at the end of the day, yes, Donald Trump has some fault here about what things that he says. But the amount of vitriol that comes here about what things that he says, but the amount of vitriol that comes from the left against him really, really needs to be toned down. Otherwise, this is going to keep happening.
Julia, I'm going to bring you in here because I think the point would have to also be made that there'll be criticism of Donald Trump and people on the right, Republicans as well, about some of the rhetoric that they use towards Democrats.
And, this past week is an example of that, not particularly towards Democrats, but we've seen it towards immigrants, in particular Haitian immigrants. At the debate, for example, on Tuesday, we heard former President Trump, essentially voice these unfounded, baseless conspiracy theories that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, are eating pets, and that might seem completely bizarre when I say that, but we've seen sort of the ramifications of that play out over this week. In fact, just today, 2 universities in the Springfield, Ohio area have had to shut down their campuses because of threatening letters and emails they've received. And we've seen that Springfield, Ohio itself has gotten a number of bomb threats. Now, is Donald Trump the only one voicing those conspiracy theories? No, this is something we've seen on the fringes of the far right over the past week or so. But at the same time, it goes to show that on the other side, we're seeing political violence manifest itself in another way, not necessarily against political figures, but against these groups. Absolutely, we've heard this intensifying rhetoric from the left against Donald Trump, calling him a dictator, a threat to democracy, and certainly, yes.
We're going to have to leave it there. Julia Manchester, Joseph Moreno Barry, Donna Dio, thank you both, all of you. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you for being with us here on BBC News.
Hello there. Well, we've seen plenty of sunshine throughout the weekend. Also a few outbreaks of rain for some, but that is the last of the wet weather that we'll see for quite a few days yet, because for much of next week it's looking dry and settled, high pressure dominant, more sunshine, and it will feel warmer by day and milder by night too. Just watch out for the possibility of some rather murky mornings with mist and fog patches developing, especially where the winds stay light. Now here's that area of high pressure building in from the southwest. It's centred more or less right over the UK as we head through Monday, deflecting these low pressure systems out towards the north and the west. Now, as we head into Monday morning itself, there'll be some mist and fog, particularly for northwest England, southwest Scotland perhaps. It's milder towards the south with that legacy of cloud for a while, coolest out towards the north and the east, but a whole range of temperatures as we start off the day. Now, the mist and the fog will readily lift and clear as we head through the morning, and there'll be plenty of sunshine around, lots of blue skies. High cloud turning the sunshine hazy at times, more of a breeze out towards the far south and the east. We could see 1 or 2 very isolated showers for Kent, but it's still unlikely. More cloud for Northern Ireland later on through the day, and temperatures in the high teens, the low 20s, 21 degrees Celsius for parts of central and eastern England. It's close to the seasonal average. And then on Tuesday, well, we could see any mist and fog really across parts of Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, down through the East Midlands, more of a northeasterly wind for East Anglia, southeast England here, and a bit more in the way of cloud for northwest Scotland. But with a southwesterly wind blowing, then for parts of the Moray Firth, the Highlands, temperatures could reach 21 or 22 degrees Celsius, so certainly feeling warm here. Wednesday and Thursday, our area of high pressure starts to meander further northwards and eastwards. It's still dry towards the north. Towards the south, we'll see more of an easterly breeze take hold, but it is going to be feeling warm here. Again, there's a more noticeable northeasterly blowing, windy through the Channel perhaps, but 24 degrees Celsius in central southern England and southeast England. And again, 21 or 22 Celsius for those sheltered areas of Scotland. So here's the outlook for our capital cities then as we head through the week. There's a lot of sunshine around, it's dry and it's settled. We could potentially see a few showers break out on Friday. Bye-bye.
I'm telling you, there's going to be a revolution.
Have you considered resigning over this? Because you're clearly embarrassed.
Of course, I have been. I have thought about this.
We have now the best or most sophisticated information technology in history, and people are no longer able to talk with each other or to agree on the most basic facts.
I want to be totally honest with you, and I am being honest with you.
At least this should be a common ground for everyone. We should defend international law.
In the spirit of your title of Hard Talk, you're completely wrong.
I'm not offended, but I want to hear why.
You're completely wrong.
Hard Talk. Watch on BBC iPlayer.
From 9 amazing space missions to the times Nessie made a splash The list charts some of the most remarkable events that have made the headlines. Each episode dives into a new story, from the recent past right up to today, and discover there's a lot more behind the biggest and strangest stories. The List. Watch on BBC iPlayer.
We're going to start with what's happening when it comes to climate change.
We cannot normalize this.
This is going to appeal to more people than just his base.
And that's really the nub of this.
The hard part comes next.
That gift of panda diplomacy.
But this is the first time we've done this in modern history.
And we're going to say unprecedented a lot.
The news is just words without the context.
And this is the context.
Tomorrow from 8 on BBC News and iPlayer.
Boeing faces yet another setback as thousands of workers go on strike in Seattle and Portland. Plus, we discuss the challenges facing the media industry with the boss of the Wall Street Journal. Hello and a warm welcome to Business Today with me, Steve Lai. Now we begin with Boeing, where thousands of its workers went on strike on Friday after union members at the firm's West Coast factories overwhelmingly rejected a contract offer from the firm, which included a 25% pay rise over 4 years. Greg Waldron of Flight Global explained how the company is navigating this latest setback.
Certainly coming at a terrible time for the company because, they really were trying to rejig their 737 production after, the issues they had with the Alaska door blowout last year. So there was a real effort to undergo that. And also there's some critical issues around, the certification of their new 777-8